the budget of consolidation, which is basically aimed at reinforcing and building on the recent accomplishments of this administration with specific emphasis on sustaining the reflationary policies of the last two budgets of his administration. The key parameters and assumptions of the 2018 budget proposal, which is also captured in the 2018-2020 medium-term expenditure framework and the fiscal strategy paper, include benchmark oil price of $45 per barrel, oil production estimate of 2.3 barrels per day, exchange rate of 305 naira to $1 for 2018, our real GDP growth of 3.5%, and inflation rate of 12.4%. The sum total proposed expenditure for 2018 by Mr. President is 8.6 trillion naira. This shows an increase of 16% above the 2017 appropriation. The details of the budget comprises of the following: recurrent costs, 3.4 trillion, capital expenditure as proposed 2.4 trillion, excluding the capital component of statutory transfers. The debt service, 2.014 trillion, statutory transfers of about 456 billion, sinking funds of 220 billion. From the foregoing, 30.8% of aggregate expenditure, inclusive of capital and statutory transfer, has been allocated to capital budget. It is also anticipated that fiscal operations will result in deficit of 2.005 trillion or 1.77% of GDP, which is in line with the administration's plan under the ERGP to progressively reduce deficit and borrowing. Furthermore, Mr. President has proposed the administration's plans to finance the deficit partly by new borrowings estimated at 1.699 trillion naira. According to him, 50% of this money will be sourced externally, while the balance will be sourced domestically. The balance of the deficit of 306 billion is to be financed from proceeds of privatization of some non-oil assets by BPE. These are the fundamentals of the 2018 federal budget, which is christened Budget of Consolidation. At this point, let me start by taking you further to some aspects of the budget proposal that specifically form the prominent concerns of the Commission. And part of it is the federal government revenue estimates, because Fiscal Responsibility Commission is directly involved in the issue of independent revenue. From one side, from the payment of operating surplus as stated by the Fiscal Responsibility Act of all those scheduled corporations, and then from the other side, from our monitoring of other agencies on the federal revenues of the federal government. The federal government estimated revenue in 2018 is estimated at 6,607 billion naira, which is about 30% more than the 2017 target. Oil revenue is projected at 2.44 trillion naira, while non-oil revenues as well as other revenues is projected at 4.165 trillion naira. The details of the non-oil revenues include shares of government income tax, 794.7 billion, share of value added tax, 207.9 billion, custom and excise receipt, 324.9 billion. Federal government independent revenue is expected to earn within this period, within the fiscal year, 849.9 billion naira. The other various recoveries are estimated to come in 512.4 billion, proceeds from restructuring of government equity in joint ventures, and other sundry income 678.4 billion. Following from this projection, one can clearly see the good intentions of the 218 budget of consolidation to addressing pressing national issues of infrastructure, economic recovery, job creation, health sector improvement, and so on. However, I am sure that you must be worried, as I am, about the prospects of full implementation of the 2018 budget. Because if the lessons of 2017 budget implementation, which ordinarily should still be very fresh in our minds, we know that the realities will be a very big battle for us to achieve in 2018. This has been caused by mainly a serious shortfall. I mean, the fear about the full implementation of 2018 has been caused by mainly by the shortfall in revenue, as a result of which the government has not done quite much, especially in capital projects. While I'm not totally agreeing with the lead director of Center for Social Justice, but we will all admit that the government had serious challenges in implementation of the capital components of the 2017 budget, which to me will still pose a serious challenge in the coming year, considering the fact that 2018 fiscal year is more or less an election year. Yes. If you look at it from the perspective that Mr. President, even on his own, acknowledged this challenge in his budget speech when he said that a key revenue shortfall was mainly from the independent revenue, where only 155.14 billion was remitted by September 2017, as against the projected prorated sum of 605.87 billion. This represents a 75% shortfall as of September 2017, which Mr. President himself said is very disappointing. The Commission has been bothered so much, and we have bothered about ensuring increased independent revenue for the government, because we have discovered that non-availability of such funds account for why government cannot effectively implement its budget. As a way of fighting to improve on this situation, the Commission, in our efforts, got the nod of the Honorable Minister for Finance to increase the number of agencies in the schedule of the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2007. Presently, additional 92 agencies have been added to the schedule of the FRA 2007 as required by law. The entire aim is to ensure that more agencies pay operating surplus to the consolidated revenue funds of federal government. This exercise has increased the number of agencies in the schedule of the Act from the previous 31 to the present 122. So it's expected that more revenue will come in. The Commission has also developed a template, a standard template for the calculation of operating surplus, which has been approved after major stakeholders' participation, approved by the Honorable Minister for Finance, and she has also issued a circular in that respect. This template for calculation of operating surplus is meant to resolve the issue of discrepancies and the problems which we normally had with these revenue earning agencies, because they apply different ways in calculating their 80% operating surplus, which ordinarily they should remit to the CRF. Unfortunately, the Commission has not got enough support to push up this template and engage these agencies on what constitutes of the operating surplus. we have had and we're still having various challenges in area of pushing up most of what we are convinced would have improved to the independent revenue agencies. Part of our key challenge, which we have been stating for the past years, is the issue of amending the Act. The Act, as it is, we have tried to see how we can manage to continue to push it up, but an Act that provided for punishment without sanctions, of course, you all agree with me, is neither here nor there, because most agencies, most experts will definitely not take it serious. Even some of them are aware that most of our summons will not have any sanction, even when they ignore it. And of late, you're all aware that even part of our responsibility, which we have been trying to push up to see how we can get in some of these agencies, we observe that because of the hangover, the non-settlement of the issue of Orasai panel, which recommended the scrapping or merger of Fiscal Responsibility Commission, is still hanging over us like a sort of demagogue, that neither here nor there, some agencies still believe that it is better either to go to other agencies like Finance Ministry or Accountant General to resolve the issue of payment of operating surplus than to come into Fiscal Responsibility Commission to discuss our statutory responsibility. So the earlier government resolves the issue of whether Fiscal Responsibility Commission, the issue of Orasai panel report and the gazetting of the white paper, which says that the commission should be scrapped, is still an issue which creates doubts in the mind of most of these agencies, because their legal experts still advise them, and we are still having that challenge, that most agencies prefer to go to other interagencies to talk about their independent revenue. At the end of the day, they still have to resolve it because we have the legal authority on the issue of 80% operating surplus. However, what we are saying here is, the earlier, if the issue of independent revenue should be pursued vigorously, the earlier government settled the issue of the recommendation of Orasai panel is a very big challenge to the Commission.